Today, we have with us the Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises. Let's give him a warm NSC welcome. I will pass the mic over to the DG to make a few remarks, but suffice it to say that we're working more closely with the BPE than we've done in a very long period of time.
I want to congratulate the management and all of you who have driven this change and have put the Nigerian Stock Exchange among the top stock exchanges in the world. BPE has always been a partner and an ally with the Nigerian Stock Exchange. And many of you know that there are 55 companies that are listed on the stock exchange now that came through the privatization process. Many of you know that First Bank, UBA, Owando, former Nolken, Corn Oil were all WAPCO, BCC, Ashaka, they were all privatized companies. And BPE will continue to work towards developing and increasing the liquidity in the market and increasing the depth of the market by bringing enterprises for listing. The distribution companies have residual shares of 40%. As soon as we resolve the amount, the number of shares that will be allotted to the states who have made some investment in the distribution companies, and as soon as the companies find their feet, we shall bring them for listing on this stock exchange. We have also inserted clauses in the share purchase agreement of the generating companies for them to do a deferred public offer subsequently. We have also commenced discussions with some companies that we had core investor sales that are supposed to come to the capital market. Companies like LMA Petrochemical, Transcorp Hilton, and such companies. We have begun preliminary discussions, and in the not too distant future, these companies will also come for listing. But the big one is when we conclude the reform of the road transport sector and get those bills listed. We have the roads bill, the inland waterways bill, the ports and harbour bill, and the railway bill. By the time these bills are passed, and they are going to be presented to the Federal Executive Council shortly, by the time they are passed and the regulatory agencies are set up, we will have concession of roads, concession of railways, concession of our inland waterways, and people can now build private ports because the enabling environment will be created by the regulatory framework to invite and make it conducive for private capital to move in. And that will create huge activities for you on the capital market because infrastructure requires long-term financing. We're also encouraging the successor companies to access the capital market as quickly as they can to refinance the huge amount of finances they have had to raise to pay for the acquisition of the PHCN successor companies and also raise working capital. We do not believe their balance sheets will be able to absorb all the burden moving forward. It will be better for them to come and refinance their debt portfolio through a more stable instrument on the capital market. My fellow colleagues, I want to assure you that we'll continue to be partners in progress and we'll continue to work towards deepening the capital market. Thank you very much. still work in progress, but we've achieved some milestones. We've gotten 7 reform bills reviewed and okayed by the National Council on Privatization. Those bills have also been further looked at by the Minister of Finance and the Attorney General of the Federation. And those bills are now ready for presentation to the Federal Executive Council for approval and transmission to the National Assembly for enactment. Now, of significance is the transport sector bills. Now, economists tell us that our inefficient transport system contributes about 20 to 30% of the cost of products, and so it's important that we get the transport sector right. So what we have here now are the roads bill, the roads fund bill, the inland waterways bill, the ports and harbour bill, and the railway bill. What these bills intend to do is to create a conducive and an enabling environment for private capital to come into Nigeria. And how are they going to achieve that? One, they will abrogate the old laws that restrict participation in that sector by the private sector. They will create a regulatory agency that will have the regulatory powers to regulate that sector, just like we have in the Nigerian Communications Commission, which is regulating the telecom sector. We've seen the boom that has come through the reforms of the telecom sector. We're hoping to replicate that in the road, railway, inland waterways, ports and harbour. Once you create a conducive atmosphere for private individuals, private capital to participate, you will see a lot of activities going on there. We also got it right for power. That is why the 17 successor companies were snapped up by investors, because the atmosphere, the enabling environment was created for private capital to move in. Once you make a sector conducive for private sector investment, huge amounts of capital will move in. Now, if we get it right for the transport sector, we will have a lot of investment in our railway, in our roads, in our inland waterways, and then we can grant concessions to the private sector people to run it. That takes away a lot of burden from government. Now, because the the power companies have been taken over by private sector, government doesn't need to budget for them anymore. In the next year, when the private sector has taken over these successor companies, that amount of money that used to be budgeted for power can be used in another sector. The same thing if we get the transport sector right. The roads will be concession to the private sector. That capital can move to health, to education, and to other areas. So the transformation agenda of Goodluck Jonathan and Sambo is to create an enabling environment for the private sector to move in from any part of the world and come and invest in Nigeria and drive our economy.